Very good evening, everyone, and welcome all of you here. Thanks for gathering to have this very meaningful conversation on the broader theme around road safety and, of course, creating a safer mobility forum in the context of employee transportation. Now, of course, thank you again for taking out the time to join us for this roundtable powered by Netradyne. We will explore the evolving landscape of employee transportation in India, where it stands today. We will also delve into the importance of technology in driving change and the impact of road accidents on employee safety, which really is a cause of key concern that the government also is closely looking at. And of course, the market dynamics shaping transportation services and the need for collaboration really among ecosystem partners to drive a positive change. So with that said, let me call upon you, Mr. Shivkumar. First.
India today is the world's fastest growing economy. And I believe it will continue to be so in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. Done that. But what really gets my goat is why are we not able to reduce an absolutely pathetic record against our name of deaths on Indian roads? We are having 19 deaths per hour and 420 deaths per day. That is the dismal statistics that we have, despite so many advancements in trucks, in technology, in roads, in lighting, in brakes, in tires, but we are not able to stop the deaths. And in most cases, the people who pass away are the sole breadwinners of the family, and they leave behind a wife and kid or 2 kids, and they are on the road. So the entire ecosystem of that family is broken. So we really need to do something about driving habits. So we need to train our drivers, we need to monitor how they drive, we need to understand their driving patterns and behavior.
Right, you very gravely put it out there saying that despite, India poised to be the fastest and, currently one of the fastest growing economies in the world, it is a dire state when it comes to road safety. Let me get in a word from you, Major Aditi Mohan, in terms of, being one of the top corporates and contributing to making a road safe for all. What is the significant involvement that your company has in this space? If you can share some of the initiatives that your company has undertaken in this area.
So as a part of Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, you all know that, it's there in the public forum as well, that we manage a lot of factories across India. So to say, 17 factories, so many depots, and of course our trucks are there on the road. So with respect to the safety of our drivers and of our assets and of our employees, we are very conscious about what we do. We've done our driver awareness campaigns, and 2 days later from now, we are going to be running a campaign which is called Safety Beyond Boundaries. And that's an initiative not only for our own drivers, but we're also trying to engage with the Mandi drivers so that we can spread that awareness why it is important, because your life is at stake, your family's life is at stake. When you talk about solutions, I think everybody today is very conscious about the technology that is out there. We're living in the world of AIs. So when we talk about the drivers, how educated the drivers are, how much of it they actually understand technology. Our job is to make sure that we talk the language that they understand. We walk the talk. And we were discussing earlier, we were also telling you that, when you sit in that car or when you sit in that bus, how many of you actually wear that seat belt? How do you live that example? What is it that you do on your own? So we make sure that we're doing our driver simulations when we onboard a driver. To say, those who are sitting here on this forum, we make a lot of effort to make sure that there are no congestion. We've been saying, don't be on the road when it is not required to be there. So we need to come together as a community and ensure that, we are actually making use of those heat maps around that we are trying to bring into your systems.
Right, and of course you brought up the point of the socio-economic consequences of road incidents, which is really key. Coming to you, Vinod, at WTW, you at the core of things also deal with risk, insurance, all of that. So if you can throw a little bit more light on, the socio-economic consequences of these road accidents and incidents, and what it is that employees are looking for when it comes to transport solutions. How has that really played into your strategy to catering towards employee well-being?
There is 60% of employee workforce on road, right? It has a direct connect in terms of how productive the workforce would be if they reach their destinations either 2 or 4 from home to office and back in time. It also has a very clear, connectivity towards the diversity factor, where we are talking about not only gender but differently abled, employees also, how they would actually look at it. Now we are talking about organizations who are very, very clearly aligning ESG values, in their business strategy, and also DEI. Now, there are so many layers of this which can basically be connected to employee wellness and what employee want. Typically, at the end of the day, what would an employee want? A safe, consistent, efficient transport solution. And safety, we represent more than 1,000 plus organizations across India. We see a lot of organizations very clearly articulating that employees at the center of everything. Their most valuable, commodity or asset is the employee. And of course, there is a business strategy behind this also. A presentism, making sure that the employee who's available at the, in any form, right? The future of work is anywhere. It is just not work from home, work from office. It's a hybrid work. The future of mobility is interconnected here.
So throw some light on, how do you perceive the role of technology in optimizing employee transportation and largely towards ensuring safety as well as operational efficiency?
Okay, let me first start with the safety aspect of it, because we believe Samsung, one of our core values is safety. Safety is paramount and it cannot be compromised. Now, when we look at employee transport, the first thing that we always do is, including our vehicles that we have, the buses, we ensure that the buses are designed, manufactured as per our needs, the interiors part of it, not the chassis part of it. So we ensured that, like Aditi and everybody was saying here, that the 3-point seat belt is mandatory. And we ensure that it comes from the factory fitted and not fitted outside anywhere. Now, second comes, like I heard, that these are the people, the bus drivers are the ones who have the wheel under the control. So what we do is every quarter we have an R&R where we speak to each and every occupants or the travelers of the buses to find out and get their feedback on the drivers as to their driving. And this comes to us in writing so that we know exactly what it is. And we also ensure that the drivers are recognized. They are also given prizes as to who is the best driver to motivate them. Samsung believes that the buses can come late whatever time. We do not question, we do not penalize. We tell them not to drive rash. And we also have the Bangalore traffic management, the police coming in and giving them talks with videos, telling them what went wrong and what went right. And we also take them to the Bangalore traffic center, which is closer to the MG Road, where the traffic police tell them the rules and regulations, what to do and what not to do on the road. Because road rage is something that we always find. And anytime something happens, it is the bigger vehicles that is at fault. Yeah. And finally, we always make it a point to tell them that you can be replaced immediately by the company, but not your families. So please be very aware of that. This is something that we always stress to the people, and that is something that always hits them very hard. That is what we have found also. And we have this, like while we are talking, we always speak to them in the local language that they can understand. Yeah. Predominantly the Kannada that we do, so that they understand the need for it. And the next thing is on the employees that we do. Every now and then we send out communications, we ensure that it is done. We tell them what is the need of a seat belt, and we have specific seats even for the expected mothers, and we tell the drivers that there is an expected mother traveling in your vehicle, so please be very careful. So we go last mile into that to explain to them the need and how is it that they can make a difference to everything that happens on the road. We also made it a point to take out the peak hours in the morning so that the buses, we have multiple buses. We have buses which come in 4 different slots, and we have a nodal services. So we encourage our employees to take our transport system. And I can proudly say we have close to around the 35% of my workforce using the transport. And in addition, we also have the technology. so that we have the GPS system. So if we know that the driver is overspeeding, he is immediately called into the office. We don't reprimand him, but we tell him as to what went wrong so that he doesn't do that. We try to make him understand in the language that he understands rather than reprimanding him. And we also have the CCTV cameras installed inside the buses, so we know what exactly the driver is doing or the employees is also doing inside the bus. So these are the things that we use in the technology, and this is real time. And we monitor it. It is not that it is installed, but we also monitor it real time so that we know exactly what is happening.
Kushbu, as one of the key, auto manufacturers, of course, as users as well, talk to us about some of the emerging trends in vehicle manufacturing today. With advancement in technology, there's now this focus on sustainability, emerging trend of EVs, and how that is really impacting this entire ecosystem, and also what bearing does it have on the future of employee transportation?
Most of us are aware that it's electric vehicles that are the new thing. But aside of that, in terms of the mobility space, we have stuff around autonomous vehicles, could be partially or completely, autonomous. And of course, the other trends also revolve around connected solutions. The other piece also that a lot of organizations are really looking at is shared mobility. So these are largely the trends that we see evolving into manufacturing. And in terms of how does it really kind of tie back to what we are talking about and what the central focus of this conversation really is, in terms of employee well-being or transportation, and like Vinod rightly, it's very, very central to what the organizational values really are. And if I'm to drill it down even more further to what we are as individuals, and therefore organizations who are really working towards bringing about change by looking at sustainable solutions, they opt for transportation providers who are actually offering electric vehicles, point A. Point B also is how can we look at optimizing the entire transportation space and reducing the load on road by trying to, club a couple of folks who travel in similar areas, so on and so forth. But the key focus should really be in terms of mobility. How is it really driving my organizational culture? A, is it inclusive? B, is it sustainable?
At the end of the day, it's basically, cars are becoming more powerful, more technology intensive compared to, the past decade. So when all of this is at play, how do you really look at, driver behavior and solve for that as well when it comes to all the technology that you sort of build into the car? Any sort of specific interventions that you're doing targeting specifically at, driver behavior and how that can be prioritized in a country like India?
And with the EV, there are a lot many technology involved in that. IoT, for example, other if you take the autonomous braking system, many are involved in the car manufacturing. The technology is there. Only how we analyze that, how the behavior of the driver can be captured with the vehicle itself, and how we are linking with any, like I was talking post before that, like how we, if you link with the insurancer, so if you link with that, how we can reduce that behavioral aspect. So the technology are there. Only thing is how we incorporate in our system. So with that, for example, in our organization, we never encourage people to take a two-wheeler from commuting from the office to home. We always insist them either four-wheeler or the shared transport.
That great point there about even, building that culture of following the rules and regulations in a country like India. I think that itself is something that needs to start at home. But Aditi, coming back, even in an organization like yours, where you highlighted you have 17 large factories, a lot of employee transportation being done. When it comes to drivers specifically, what are the standards that you set, for your partner organizations that are providing transport services to you? What are your views on implementing some of these measures, like when it comes to assessing driver scores and their behavior? How do you do it?
So we follow a very stringent methodology within the organization because we are talking about crores and crores of material that is actually going in and out of the factories. Not only that, but also because of my people who are working in the factories, that is employee transportation also involved. So we, as someone just talked about collaboration, the effort that goes into shortlisting those truckers and those drivers and the transport vendors with our involvement, and not only our involvement but also our safety teams that are involved into it, making sure that we have the right transport trucker with us who's following those road safety norms, the policies that are there laid down by the government of India. That is judiciously and religiously followed. Then we talk about, when we have onboarded, we talk about the employee and the driver wellness and safety. We just launched this year a 360-degree care program which talks about our 4 pillars. And since our logo and our motto is becoming the best, we've bracketed them into BEST. B being our physical and the body well-being, where we're not only talking about our employees or associates, but also every person whose life we touch. So we've done that. The E talks about our financial, the economic stability of the organization, which is very important. And we've been listing out the culture of the organization out here, and that's where we come from. With the S part of it, we're talking about social awareness, our CSR activities, our contribution to the society, our sustainability part of it, and of course, the last but not the least, the T part of it, which is your mental awareness, your thought and mind. With that as a beginning of it. So when you drive in your technology solutions, irrespective, I've been here for 18 years, ladies and gentlemen. I'm as much a Bangalorean, and you just mentioned we talk the language, but it's the heart connection that you need to have, because पहुंचे को तो खैर सारी भाषाएं आ जाती हैं, but that's the connection you need to have. हर technology उन्हें समझ में आएगी. So this is where I'm coming from, Shivani, and there are lot many other stories, but we are short of time.
Right now we're in a space where we have ready-made solutions. We have a lot of service providers who would take off a lot of this, fleet management, driver management off your hands. And the market size for this, the transportation service market is also huge. To just lay out a few statistics over there, worldwide it is estimated at, $46 billion by the year 2028, and the Asia Pacific region is likely to really dominate the market due to the growing business and economies in this area. So let me bring in Ujjwal here from Move and Sync. Ujjwal, if you can tell us a little bit about what your employee transportation solution includes, how do you really prioritize safety, and how it sort of caters to both facility and transport managers at large corporates as well as the employees themselves.
Sure. So I think we look at we look at three stakeholders, right? So when you're talking about employee commute, one is the employee themselves, the second one is the driver, and third one is the car, or the vehicle itself. We have 24/7 monitoring of all trips that are happening, and 99% of the SOS calls that we get is just employees testing that is it working. Driver, we talked a lot in the forum about how we can ensure. I think one aspect that I would like to add among a lot of other stuff that we've talked about is that the driver, drivers do not generally undergo regular health checkups, right? And that I think is very important. So what we have found is that we do regular health checkups for drivers, and we have found that they regularly. I mean, there are a lot of these chronic diseases, we call them, that they get discovered, like a diabetes or a high blood pressure, that get discovered during those checkups, and then we tell them that that need to be on prescription. And that's very critical because that leads to a lot of problems, a lot of fatigue related issues, a lot of losing consciousness related issues, which can be dangerous, which can be fatal. And then the third, of course, is the car. So we have a lot of stringent checklists baked into the product itself. A lot of stats that are available from the manufacturers themselves, and a lot of external looking checklists, like if they have a medical box or first aid kit, they have a fire extinguisher, they have a torch, things like that. These things are available at all times, and such things are checked before every trip, right? And we do proactive measures in one of the offerings that we have, which is called Move and Sync One, where we provide both tech and fleet. We do proactive measures from of evaluating driver behavior. The first thing that we want to ensure through our products is safety, and I think that is also very critical for all the corporates that are our clients, and 300 plus clients, and we're doing 4 million plus trips. So we have so much data about that we are getting on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, that and also happy to say that we are also kind of also sharing some of these intelligence that we are getting with the Bangalore Traffic Police, where they're they're trying to do algorithms to have or control the traffic in a much better way.
Vikas, your thoughts as well on this. You're, of course, an expert in transport solutions. Take us through some of the key features that you provide, as well as what are the trends that you are seeing emerging in this space?
I'm not sure if I'm an expert, but we've been running for 15 months. I handle about 150 drivers today. I have two core beliefs. One is that drivers are the most integral piece of our premium service. I could provide the fanciest of the cars, but if the driver's not polite or not safe, doesn't give that vibe, odds are guests are going to have a bad experience. Whereas even with an okayish car, if the driver is safe and taking care of the guests, they're very likely to have a good experience. So drivers are the most integral piece in our entire business, and we have to treat them as such, right? I cannot expect them to be treating our guests nicely if I don't treat them well. Right? So a lot of my work personally and the team's work goes into ensuring that we are constantly talking with our drivers, understanding what their lives are like, what the problems they are facing. And drivers are humans, like corporate employees. They will also tend to do things that they are incentivized and motivated for. So we try our best to make sure that their incentives are aligned with the business incentives, with the business objectives, which again go back to what do we want to provide as a service, which is a safe and comfortable experience. Correct. So those are the things that I really believe help us deliver a good experience while keeping drivers happy at the same time. And it is a stressful job, 12 hours driving in a car or in some other vehicle is I'm doing that 6 days a week for months. It takes its toll in different ways. So you have to make sure that you take care of them. Use a bunch of different pieces of technology, from tracking to dash cam sometimes. But I feel that the most meaningful impact, or the meatiest impact that we have seen, is just from engaging, as ma'am was saying, bando ke, aap unse baat karo, and if you sit with them, chat with them, they feel vested in that whole process, and that has the biggest impact that I have personally seen.
That's great. We speak about technology and all of that, but at the end of the day, the human connect also, and the intersection of both is really key. So great points there. Tell us a little bit of what you are doing at Dr. Reddy's in terms of the initiatives that you've taken up, and going forward, are you looking largely at tech integrated services? What really are you looking for from your transport providers?
Yeah, thank you. So what we are doing at Dr. Reddy's is we've gone back to the basics. So in terms of going back to the basics, we have definitely brought in a lot of awareness in terms of why this is important. What's the importance of road safety? What's the importance of the driver being in a good mood, health-wise, mentally, physically, evaluating things like, is the fatigue building up? Also, what we have done is, we've built up a very robust defensive driving training mechanism for our drivers. That means that, only those drivers, because Dr. Reddy is a 3-shift operation, so we definitely need transportation across different time zones. And definitely there are times when one driver is not available and somebody has to pick up on the other person. So second element, the human connection, which we are celebrating Drivers' Day, which is really quite recent. And the drivers were like, we don't get this amount of respect. Okay, you are doing this. So those are the elements which we started with under basics. When we went towards advanced things, there were train the trainer sessions. We have a concept of DTC, which is basically a digital training center, where we see how the drivers are actually showing what kind of behaviors. There are some tech devices from maybe few of your companies as well, which are put into place, and it's dependent on the Wi-Fi connection or the usage of your internet to check, how they have been behaving, what's the breakage time, what's the speed time, what are the kind of biometrics which have affected them. So, bringing in the collaboration with their behavior to the reaction on the ground or on the surface. So that has also helped. I think the human connection has improved because drivers now definitely see the respect. But with this, human being human, we need to also, have a reprimanding procedure in place as well, so that, we do checks. So we also do some not known checks. People sometimes go down, check whether things are happening. Also, penalizing is needed at times, specifically because we are using third-party support services. We're also implementing certain tech solutions which are more like app-based to check, how things are happening. And we are also promoting it through our senior leadership team, that, they also talk about it, they bring it to it. So, we do have an annual safety day, road safety day specifically, which we celebrate. Also, since our big footprint is in Hyderabad, so we have also collaborated with the Hyderabad police there and other industry folks, because we alone cannot change.
Jijo, I want you to take this next question up, because now we've got like a lot of these companies that have the plug and play, fully tailor-made, custom-made services for corporates. What are the challenges that you face? Because the ask is huge. You have to meet their compliance standards. They're doing a lot themselves as well. So what are you doing at Tasky to, cater to this and also meet the challenges?
Yeah, the major challenges what we are facing is, as I resonate with Vikas and Ujjwal, it is with the drivers. So the training of the drivers, and all our cabs that are EVs, they are fitted with the multiple telematics. So all the data points that are coming from the telematics, we analyze using the software, and we profile the drivers, and we give separate trainings, because every driver will have different problems. One might be distracted with mobile. One has harsh braking, harsh accelerations. Those are the, if you run through all these data points, you can really scrutinize and improve that efficiency of the driver. Because what I feel is, the driver is the fulcrum of our service point. Because if we don't give them the input, if we don't take care of them, then whatever we talk, it will not it will be meaningless. So for us, we are trying to couple that technology with, and the data points that are coming from the telematics, and giving all the stakeholders, whether it is the corporate clients, whether it is drivers, whether it is operations, giving them the dashboards, giving them the, that data points where they can make informed, data-driven decisions. So at Tasky, we are trying to bridge that gap, with the drivers. That is the major thing which we are, and we also think, all the operators, all the fleet operators should have these devices.
So, Mr. Shivkumar, your company, of course, is at the helm of AI-based technology, also provide vision-based driver safety solutions. And that's really been the core of our conversation so far. So as India Business Head at Netradyne, how are you looking at, catering to the transportation segment, and tell us a little bit about the services that you provide?
So transport and logistics section in India, employee transport is a remarkably wafer thin margin business. We talk of 4 to 5 to 6% business modules, And to add another overhead like an AI-based device on already overloaded logistics supplier or an employee transporter will really, it's like the last straw that broke the camel's back. So everybody wants the company to foot the bill, and the logistics people, providers don't want to foot the bill. So this is my experience with Indian customers. People are ready, much better than what it was 3 to 4 years back. They are willing to accept AI as a tool for making their driving habits better, but they are unwilling to invest large sums of money. They want it at a basic dashcam price, which is not really possible. So that's where I find my challenge.
Maybe the mass adoption of these devices can help to decrease the cost. So if there is a legislation, if there is a interest from the government so that it is mandatory in all passenger cars, then maybe that unit metrics will work better for you.
I mean, I'll just add on that. In a less regulated market like India, right, things are going to gravitate towards market forces, and it'll all be a function of the price and the demand and the supply, right? And all of this has like it's like it trickles down in across all aspects, right? So I don't think any corporate here will say that they don't want safety for their employees. They all want that, but everything comes at a cost. Right? You can't have like the best fitted devices with the most polished drivers in the safest of the cars while paying for something which doesn't add up. Right? So, and in a market like India, there will be all kinds of users, both on the consumer side as well as on the B2B side. Right? And there are a bunch of companies who do pay for that premium and for that safety, but a good number of them, do not or aren't that keen to, because their budgets are different, their priorities are different, and that is also fine, right? But that is the harsh truth.
I just wanted to add on this is, I think the way we have to sell it is, bringing it that you're going to be safe, you're going to reach back home safely. Your probability of, getting hurt and your family being under trauma is going to, lessen because of this. And I think the addition of the value and the sentiments, because India is a very emotional and sentimental country in general. So when we start bringing it this way, I think it will sail through.
Speaking on behalf of the corporates as well, my dear friend, what happens is that you are not there in the tier 3 cities as well, right? If I have to go and be in the midst of jungles where I'm actually bringing up a manufacturing plant, believe you me, you don't have vehicles at all. Priority for us is always safety, right? But yes, cost is a factor of it. I mean, with all the technologies that are embedded, we expect it at the last mile also. But while you say that you're ready to sell us the best of the best, our requirement is safety. At the same time, we do want everything value for money. We want value for money because then it's so important, because we are standing in front of the board of directors and
I'm with you, ma'am. I don't think I could have run a premium service if I didn't offer value for money.
Yeah.
Right? With the fact, like, all I'm trying to say is that India is a diverse market, and in unregulated markets where there aren't as many regulations that mandate putting of a device, boils down to ultimately the fleet provider to maintain certain standards and then price themselves accordingly.
True.
So the market is kind of diverse here in that sense.
Multiple aspects of safety. A lot of times when we talk about safety, so I think when we think about safety, we need to think about physical, behavioral, but also the road safety. And my hope is that slowly, just like we have gone and built some regulation, a lot of corporates are thinking about all the behavioral and physical safety aspects. They also think about the road safety aspect. Some of that is covered, of course, by training and seat belt and stuff. But then the next question to think about is, and we touched upon the point on incentives, right? Everything is driven by incentives. And clearly, if your incentives are not based on objective numbers, then you are going to have another level of problem, right? With your drivers may be dissatisfied, just like we run a software company. So we want to measure who is delivering more features, for example, right? And secondly, technology has evolved, so we can get much more visibility now into the, if the driver is jumping a traffic light or going into one way where they're not supposed to go, or talking on the phone. So there are many more aspects, but good thing is there's so much of awareness. I was very pleased, in fact, by talking to all the panelists and listening to the conversation. But definitely there's a need to also
take ourselves to the next level.
See, maybe an aspect which probably few of us has not really thought about. We have not gone to a basic. Back to basic is there is no adherence to standards. When I say adherence to standard, commercial driving license or a normal driving license, there are standard changes, right? Now, there is no quality check at the beginning whether the person who has taken a license has any aspect of real experience. There is also a public-private partnership which is needed at the grassroots level, wherein which some of this cannot be taught, right? The culture of safety, the culture of actually having law-abidiness, civic sense, all of this needs to actually come from some of our intrinsic training, starting from our curriculum, 10th, 12th, or even somebody who's actually having to apply for a license. So if you look at other geographies, a driving license test consists of a 3-stage process, right? We don't have that. Maybe in theory we do have, but I have observed that you don't need to even be there to get So checks and balances really at that level is not there. There is a set of public, private, and even industry, initiatives which needs to actually come in, where you set these bar, that set of people who are actually getting licensed. There is a roster which is there. Who has a commercial license need a roster of things, and it is linked to an insurance, foray where people who have claimed, because these are all anyway captured with license, which is also linked to, now a central repository where you have your traffic violations looked at. These are all intelligent solutions which can be looked at. So I'm talking about something which we need to take as a step forward. We are talking about now. But future of mobility, future of transport, future of work is something which is evolving, right?
I'm from a mechanical transport battalion from the ASC. We train drivers. We do not allow them to get onto the wheels unless and until they've done this 6 months of course. When you are already commissioned as a soldier out there, we do not allow them to drive because we are the ones who are actually taking all your, ammunition to the borders. This is something that you're talking about, the central repository. They do not get that license at all.
In Dr. Reddy, we also do, any driver who comes with whatever license they have, they still have to undergo a set of tests, and then they are only allowed to, drive certain things. But definitely we do have a chunk of our truck drivers which keep coming and they keep changing. So we have to keep doing them as well. So that's why a resource has been allocated for doing these things. But it takes efforts.
If the agenda is basically to actually put together the salient aspect of what we are actually looking at, and having a public-private partnership is what we actually intend to do. I think there are a set of things which we need to actually look at, as segments. Or one is where the talent is coming, like all the drivers. See, the left and right side, there is a corporate segment which needs the services. There is this solution providers side where you're giving. There is a set of solutions providers who are actually providing intelligence and services across. But ultimately, it is a set of human beings who are actually coming through, right? Economic need is what now gravitates, what we have seen, gravitates employment opportunity. Somebody who is not skilled will say, okay, I will take a driving license and I will start driving, right? Now, we all are drivers, be it two-wheelers or a four-wheeler, but a commercial driver needs a specified set of skill set. How do we actually identify this, and how do we monitor that somebody with a 2-year experience, somebody with a 4-year experience, somebody with a 10-year experience, how are they graded? It is something which is very, very important for us to actually look at it.
I assume there is some accidents once in a while that unfortunately happen. Who was the driver? What was their experience? Was it a skill issue likely, or was that more like an overconfidence issue? Right? So those are once we have that kind of data, we can also figure out what will be most effective to prevent accidents, for example. Otherwise, we may there's a lot of stereotyping as well about certain type of people are not safe drivers and stuff. But when you look at the data exactly, I think we can say, you know what, it's not so much probably. I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that that must be true, but my hunch is that most accidents, especially the fatal ones, have nothing to do with lack of skill. They are more about overconfidence or discipline and lack of right incentives.
So sorry, but I will not blame it on the drivers as well.
Yeah.
Many a time it's never the driver.
Exactly.
You know, we forget that
Could be
India
somebody
has
else.
a geography. It
Yeah.
has a very different infrastructure. We
Right.
do not have roads such as the West. We have the gullies and the kuchas, and
Yeah.
we go in very difficult terrains. That is one. So while we are just representing few organizations, but we are speaking on their behalf. Every transport head or a facility head or a safety head, there is a lot of effort going on to making sure that our roads are safe. You know why? Not because the drivers need to learn the skill. It's because that pedestrian is there on the road. My child is on the road because he's crossing that. But you tell me how many red lights are working here in India today. How many stops are there that are actually functioning well? You know, so that is, you have the weather, you have the infrastructure, you have the roads that are not even made up. Only when there is, sorry, my apologies for making that statement, but when you have a politician going on a road, you stop my vehicles on out there. Absolutely. Like, it is never the driver. They've done their bit, they are doing their bit, even though with limited capacity of education or literacy that they have.
Absolutely.
They are so conscious about, when we do road safety weeks and campaigns, they are the ones standing there, and in fact, they don't even know what is a Microsoft Teams. They're still sitting in that in that forum, and they're listening to us, and they listen to us very consciously.
I think driving, as Vikas also mentioned, is a very stressful job as it is, 6 days a week and maybe 10, 12 hours a day, especially in India, right? Loose regulation and stuff like that. But it's the comments are about generic drivers. So it may not be your driver, but somebody else who could be at fault. And in fact, you are absolutely right, Aditi ji. We need to have incentives, positive incentives as well. And that cannot stop at only these large organizations. It has to be at the mass scale. And that's where my urge to the government, if somebody is listening, is also do not think about only physical and behavior safety, but also the road safety.
And I think there is a changing trend in the civil mindset, linking it back to the legal authorities as well. So, you know, we might see an IS soon in relation to the road related infrastructure.
And another point that I believe is, one piece is, of course, we wait for the government, wait for some measures. But what we could collectively do as organizations, providers, folks like us who need the services, is in ourselves build a community. And, why don't we start that and define what is it that we would want to measure? How is it that we would want to kind of really rate our drivers, and what, how do we take it forward? Because I come predominantly from a well-being background, and I see that happening across countries, globally, with respect to mental health.
Yeah, I think great point there, right? I think definitely is upon us. Definitely a food for thought. I definitely go back and discuss with my team what we could do to potentially create what we call as a public good.
I think we need to go back to the basics of it. The infrastructure is something that's really, really got to improve. I can give you one good example. You would have passed that road the previous night. Weekend, you come back on a Monday, you see a road hump which was not even there. Every road hump has got a different size, different height, different width. So how are the drivers going to know about it? And there is nothing to mark it. And you do not have a technology that can show that there is a road hump that was built overnight. God forbid if there is a two-wheeler and he is not able to navigate, and there is a vehicle that is bigger than a two-wheeler behind, he is at fault. If that guy falls, he is at fault. So where do we have the standard? And there are multiple agencies. Some roads, BBMP. Some roads, National Highways Authority. Some roads, somebody else. All of a sudden, there is an MLA's house that comes up. You have two big humps on both sides of his houses. So where does this stop? So there has to be some standard for everything in the infrastructure that they build. That's number one. And I cannot train my drivers for that.
A solution. What we need to focus on is how do we use the best in technology that's available, and technology is available worldwide. But solution for developed country could be different than the solution for India or developing countries. So for example, and so exactly as you mentioned, if you have put an ADAS, and ADAS is, by the way, two types of ADAS, one is active, another is passive, and so on. If you try to put an active ADAS, meaning the trying to get to autonomous level, and autonomy has levels of 1 to 5, by the way. So you go from 1 to 2, that is it still requires the driver to be at the steering. At 3 and 4, they start claiming that, oh, driver doesn't need to be at the steering in some conditions, and so on and so forth. So definitely, I think if those are the kind of things that are being advertised, that's irresponsible advertising, I think, on part of the technology or the manufacturer, I would say. That will result in people misusing, and that's where I think there are solutions that I think exist that I would like to highlight, where we are not saying that drivers are not required or you don't need to be actively engaged while driving, but if you have the ability to objectively measure who is a safer driver and who is not, you can incentivize. And it doesn't mean that 20% or X percent, large percentage of drivers are bad. In fact, there are very small percent. Just like every organization, there will be some people who are outperformers, some maybe underperformers. Same thing is true for drivers. I think they take unfair share of criticism, as I think all our panelists here mentioned. But it is also true that there are some who may really need coaching. And how do you coach? You cannot improve something unless you can measure. And that, in fact, that's one of the foundations of our company. Correct. And we and many other providers, for example, right, we like to provide visibility into the performance, how safe somebody is, and that technology exists. So we don't want to get to a situation where we say, take the same car that works in US and put it in Indian roads. That's definitely going to be a disaster, right? But can we use the technology and build a solution for India? And that's something that we should definitely look.
Yeah. And on that itself, I think we'll have to understand that we have different maturity levels of drivers, and I think as humans, the best way we teach them is peer to peer, because that brings in a lot of connectivity, one, but also a lot of experience, practical experience, and that's where your heart starts changing. So in safety, we definitely say hearts and minds have to be aligned.
You know what they do in the army? आपका ना CHM होता है. You have a, what he does is he will tell all the drivers अपनी गाड़ी खोलो. वो सारे पुर्जे निकाल देते हैं. अब गाड़ी लगाओ. So that connect that you start having and हमारा driver है ना वो गाड़ी उसकी है. You cannot detail him another vehicle. He will not take because that is his first wife. Yes, I mean, that's how it is. They are so emotionally connected to their Shaktimans of the now. तो airless आ गए, अब तो technology बदल गई. But that's the connect you need to have out here.
I think in addition to that, there's something else that I would like to add. People need to fear the law.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is something that's missing in India or in this part of the world, and not in Europe or in US. Because here everybody feels if 500 rupees or a few 500 rupees can make everything wash away.
Correct. Yeah.
So the drivers and everybody need to understand that they need to fear the law, and the laws have to be stricter.
Yeah.
Once that happens, people tend to fear. If you see, I can give you one good example in this stretch. How many vehicles do you see when you go there without honking or without crisscrossing the lanes? Most of them do that. Sometimes even we do it. That's exactly what causes everything out there on the road. Unless and until people fear the law, follow the guidelines, we will still be sitting out here. We can be having multiple forums like this, speaking about everything else. It's not going to change. So where does that start? Corporates, Yes, while we are there in the corporates. What happens when we go home? Do we imbibe that into our kids? Do those drivers imbibe those into that kids? Do we jump signals with our kids when we are in a hurry or when the kids are getting late to school? That's something that they will follow too. So unless and until we follow, we need to be the change that we want to see. That's what I have seen. And in a place like India where your pizza comes faster than your ambulance, trust me, I say to this to my driver that they are doing for their livelihood and they are there on their two-wheelers, the Swiggies and the Zomatos or the Pizza Hut guys. Please allow them. Don't try to block them. So please ensure that their life is as important as yours. So that's one thing that we imbibe. I think that is something that we would need to inculcate to everyone, including our own employees in office. When we say, we speak to them, safety is of paramount importance, we say all of this, how much do they follow?
So fundamentally, that socio-cultural upbringing would come when it is integrated as part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Right? And there is an entry and exit barriers. Right? There is an entry barrier to, if you look at transport, to get a license, and there is a fear of an exit barrier if there is a punitive measure in terms of if there is any kind of transgression which would come. Correct. Right? US is no longer a safe space in terms of road accidents. It is the second largest space. So we are not saying that it's only an Indian concern or anything, but yes, we are here. Our socio-cultural behavioral change needs to actually start from very, very beginning, right? Where some of these life skills, driving is a life skill, right? This is not something which we actually be part of our normal curriculum. Tax or financial, planning, these are all not part of the curriculum. I think there is more, like he said, it's a much more deeper conversation in terms of having a little more holistic thought process in terms of, can we look at more? Yes, any problem will have immediate, medium and long term solution. So immediate solution, I think there are a lot of things you said where we can look at immediate priorities, medium term and long term.
Naveen, he said that, we have to walk the talk. And I think that walk the talk has to happen at all levels. So with the driver, with our kids, so I think as change agents, when we know the impact, we will have to walk the talk, but definitely partnerships. So there are agencies who are, going with schools and, they are doing these road shows, CSR activities of, big organizations. I think even government, they are doing certain things. The highway authorities are doing certain things. After we had the crash, the very famous crash, we got the seat belts mandated at the back seat as well, So there are things which have happened, but yes, it's just that, who is going to be the first one to ensure it's being done.
Right now there is no the data sharing between the peers. So if there is a data share happening between the cabs or the cars and the law agencies, then we can have a better solution for the traffic also here in Bangalore. We are right in the stretch where we have maximum traffic, and if this data is shared properly, analyzed properly, we can have a better solution for all these traffic problems.
Vinay, any closing comments, in terms of what are the key takeaways from the session, and what would you like to say in terms of closing?
While we also talk about government and infrastructure and stuff, we need to be realistic. We need to figure out what aspects of technology can be used to make ourselves safer and make sure that our employees go home safely with a 360-degree view of definition of safety. So again, thank you everyone for, and we can have of course more discussion about it.
Very quickly, Shivkumar, I think you wanted to share, some collaborative partnerships that you had with corporates, some large clients like Unilever.
So the device that we install onto the the windscreen of the vehicle, basically we capture faults in the form of alerts, and it's either in the form of a beep or in the form of a voiceover. So as the driver is driving, real time the device beeps or gives a voiceover command that you are doing XX right or XX wrong, mostly XX wrong. And the driver is supposed to take a feedback of that, because part of that beep also goes to his safety manager. So the safety manager or the fleet manager also is aware that in my fleet of 100 trucks, there is this driver who's as Vinay said, probably is following up too close to another vehicle. So it throws up as an alert. Please slow down. It gives out an alert. So these are the things that corporates can really benefit by having technology live on their vehicles. As of now, I have been very successful, or rather Netradyne has been very successful in bringing it onto trucks. But as far as employee transport is concerned, we are just scratching the tip of the iceberg, and we are just beginning to make a penetration, because really this is where bulk in a bus, for example, about 50-40 people will be going. So many lives can be saved at the same time. So this is where we need to focus. We are just at the tip of the iceberg. 3 or 4 companies we have broken into, but as I get into the Indian market and into government transportation sectors, I think it will be absolutely awesome.
I want to sum it up just in a very, very simple and small line. Human capital is precious. Be it drivers, be it employees, be it a normal person walking down the road. So, not just from an organization standpoint, but like Vinod was saying, the public-private partnership. We should all just do whatever it takes. A lot of us actually mentioned this, was how do you bring in individual ownership? There's a very famous saying in Hindi that you can, and I'll try and translate it into English, but you can take a horse to a river, but you can't force the horse to drink water. So till the time it's not each one of us who actually take the initiative, I don't think this is.
Unless you're in the army.
In the course of the discussion today, we've also covered and defined some tangible, actionable strategies that all of you all on the panel, as industry leaders can adopt to bolster both fleet as well as transport safety as part of this forum. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of this roundtable discussion. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.